This is my Honda Nt650, and in this video I'm going to give you guys 5 things that I love about this motorcycle. I think it's one of the most underrated motorcycles currently on the market, and let me tell you guys why. The very first thing I absolutely love about the Nt650 is the size of this motorcycle. This is a 650 V-twin, but this motorcycle is very, very narrow. You swing your leg over this motorcycle and it feels like nothing is there. It handles so well because of the size. You can throw this bike around just anywhere. And that's something I absolutely love about the motorcycle. My very first impressions videos I've talked about, it is such an enjoyable motorcycle to ride on back roads and have fun with. And the reason for all of that is the size of the bike. Because the bike is so small and skinny and lightweight, it makes the rider on the bike so much better. Even if you are someone who's a little bit newer to riding, it makes it super easy to approach this motorcycle. And if you have a little bit of experience, it makes you a little bit more confident in taking corners or handling the bike down. Is absolutely wonderful. The Nt650 from that perspective is one of the best bikes that I've ever rode. The handling on this bike, because of how just lightweight and simple the bike is absolutely phenomenal. It truly is such a confidence-inspiring machine because of the balance of this bike. The V-twin is front and forward, so the bike doesn't really become too wide. It has a radiator in the front, but a little tiny one to just maintain a little bit of coolness in the motorcycle. The bike has factory clip-ons. These are aftermarket ones to make it a little bit lower, but it has a slender tank, a slender seat, and it makes the riding experience awesome. If you are a little bit larger, we talked about this in the 5 things I hate about this motorcycle. The size can get a little too small for people who are a little bit taller. But if you are like the previous owner of this motorcycle and you are a little bit taller, you can lower the clip-ons to get a little bit more extra arm reach, but it might be a little bit uncomfortable going longer distances or being on the bike for extended periods of time. Now, the second thing I love about this bike is the fact that it doesn't show its age. It looks like a bike that is from the early to mid 2000s, but in fact this is an 80s bike. Honda introduced this bike in the market in 1988 and they made it until 1992. Now, Honda did some weird coatings to the engine and things to make it feel a little bit odd, and some of the things have worn not too well. One of those things is the plastic rear cowlings that basically every motorcycle has had a crack in. But when you hop on and ride the bike, it has a single-sided swing arm, it has an aluminum frame, and all of those characteristics are not bikes of the 80s and 90s, but bikes of the late 90s and early 2000s, and even modern-day bikes, which this motorcycle still feels like. Honda was so ahead of their time on many bikes they've made, and some of those bikes just don't get the appreciation, and this is one of those bikes that absolutely was way ahead of its time, and it still feels like a bike that is modern. With that being said, the third thing I love about the bike is the fact that it is a little bit older. This bike has a lot of characteristics of a mid-2000s bike, but it is still raw. It doesn't have ABS, traction control. It doesn't have any of those stability controls, which are fantastic on modern day motorcycles, but sometimes it's not what you're looking for, and you want a motorcycle that is truly just you and the bike. And that is absolutely what this bike is here. These bikes are still carbureted, which gives an amazing throttle response when you have them dialed in correctly. There's no controller in this bike that's going to tell you not to do something. It truly is just a raw enthusiast bike that is ready to rock and roll and have fun and do what you tell it to do. And it's also not super dangerous to the fact that you need all of those nannies that might save your life. The bike is very controllable. The fourth thing I love about this motorcycle is the heat control. A lot of V-twins tend to run a little bit hotter. Even my RC51 gets incredibly hot. My Buell gets incredibly hot, and you're basically burning your legs on hot days. But the RC31 here, it's water cooled and it's naked. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, where the RC51 might be water cooled, The fans don't really kick on until it gets way too hot, but it's also not naked. It has a full fairing on it, and it entraps the heat inside of it. While the Buell, on the other hand, it's a 1200cc motorcycle that is strictly air and oil cooled. But the RC31 here, not only do you get a ton of air forced into the bike, cooling both of the cylinders off, maintaining the heat, but you also get a radiator in the front, and it's water cooled. So when you do hit a little bit of traffic, the bike maintains its heat very well, and you don't really feel the bike ever getting too hot. While you're riding, the temperature gauge reads on the lower side because of all the air cooling and oil cooling that it's getting. But when you do get it into some traffic situations on some very hot days, which I have done before, the bike still maintains its heat very well, and it doesn't get to the point where you need to get off of it. Because sometimes when I'm on my Buell or even my RC51, those bikes get super hot and my legs are basically baking. On a cooler night, the Buell and the RC51, I mean, you get your legs nice and snug next to them, and you feel the heat kind of coming off of them, warming you up. But on regular, hot, sunny days, it is almost dreadful to be on those bikes when they start to hit some hot temperatures. While this bike maintains it very well. See, with a bike of this size, being a 650 V-twin, especially being this old, you don't really see them having radiators and them being water cooled. A lot of bikes from this day and age were just simply air cooled. Now, we talked a little bit about the handling perspective of this bike because of its size and it being a super easy bike to ride and operate. It's a very versatile machine in that way. But the final thing I would like to bring up is the performance aspect. But it's performance on almost every single category. This bike handles very well, and I think we've established that in this video. But not only that, this bike has more than enough power to have fun and get you in trouble with. But also, this bike has very good brakes. It has disc brake in the front and rear. This bike has aftermarket braided stainless steel lines on it, but the braking feel is awesome. It's not very often you get on a bike that has the handling aspect, the appropriate power that this bike has, the confidence you get out of it, and also just an incredible braking feel like this bike does and delivers. This bike truly is an awesome all-round package. The only thing you could say the bike really lacked in is it is a 650. It's not a 600. It's not a 4-cylinder. It doesn't have a wicked power band, but it definitely still has more than enough power for what it is. And with that being said, that's all I have for this video. If you guys did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.